Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Late night went in on Taylor Swift a little bit. Jimmy Fallon said, let's get to today's Taylor Swift news. Everybody else at the Grammys got an Emmy for acting surprised when she won. There's been some backlash, too, that Taylor keeps doing that. Oh, golly gee, I won. I can't believe it. Taylor is having a bad week. I'll talk about Taylor in a bit. More from late night. Fallon, yep, Taylor dominated the Grammys. And if you thought she was on your TV a lot on Sunday, wait till next Sunday. Amen. Jimmy Kimmel was talking about the torrential rain in L.A. and said, they closed our kids' school because of rain. And I just want to mention, this is not an outdoor school. There's a roof on the school, but they said it's too dangerous to come to school. Somebody could get wet. And Kimmel had a similar upbringing to me, and he's joking here, but he's right. When I was a kid in Brooklyn, for them to cancel school, there had to be at least 6 inches of snow. There had to be black ice on the road, and Son of Sam had to be on the loose. So I grew up in Queens, as I mentioned, about 7 times a week. I went from first grade to college. I had a total of 1 snow day in 1981 when we had there was 26 inches of snow in February. School never closed in New York City. And now I live in the suburbs. And I find with my kids' schools, if there's even a hint of snow, especially on a Monday or a Friday, we better close. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they'll just do the 2-hour delay. But Monday and Friday, snow day. And we're already at February 7th, and they haven't used that many, which means if it even, gets dark, they're going to just start closing school left and right. Jimmy Kimmel, here's how you know we have a lot of rain. When the L.A. River is actually a river, usually it's just a big empty skateboard park. I will circle back to Taylor. Let's talk about Dave Chappelle. I can't believe he got the Grammy for What's in a Name. I dusted off Sean McCarthy's review from December 2022. This was on Satire, just so I could remind myself and you what What's in a Name was about. In it, Dave Chappelle goes back to his old school to lecture the students about how his previous Netflix special, The Closer, is a masterpiece and how the kids these days have no idea what they're complaining about because his rights to tell whatever jokes he wants is more important than analyzing the content of the jokes. Sean writes, this recording is not of his 2021 visit to the school, but to his subsequent visit in November. You may be able to keep beating a dead horse, but can you beat a bragging goat? Netflix set aside 39 minutes for Dave Chappelle to hold court at the school with an acceptance speech that recounts his time at the school and the major highlights of his career. I'll remind you this one best comedy album. Sean wrote, what comedy specials will it remind you of? Answer, today Chappelle is more lecturer than comedian. I'll remind you this one best comedy album. Huh? Switching to an article in Cracked, who wrote, by my thinking, a Chappelle voter must fall into one of 3 camps. Camp 1, the Chappelle is the best crowd. They write, take away the controversy, and you're left with a comedian that many consider among the best ever to grab the microphone. I think that's fair on both points. Some faction of voters must be thinking, I know what Chappelle says offends people, but I don't care. He's simply a better comedian than Trevor Noah or Sarah Silverman. I'm going to vote for the best artist, not the least offensive one. That is fair. Dave is a better comedian than Sarah for sure. Trevor, I like Trevor's game a lot, but Dave is really good. Camp 2. I'll show the snowflakes, mob. Create a rule and they feel duty-bound to break it. What some view as Chappelle's insensitivity or even cruelty can be perceived as bravery by those who value artistic freedom above all else. A vote for Chappelle could be a middle finger extended to anyone who wants to restrict what a comic can joke about. I personally am not looking to restrict what Dave jokes about. My problem is he's done it 4 straight releases now, and I'm done with it. You made your point. It was funny. I laughed at some of it. Some people didn't appreciate it. But what are we doing? And back to this particular Grammy. Best comedy album, not best speech given by a comedian, best comedy album. What are we doing, Grammys? Camp 3. And I think this is where they nailed it. The Chappelle is the comedian I've heard of gang. They write, who votes for the Grammys? According to the Recording Academy, voters come from a pool of vetted and venerable performers, songwriters, producers, engineers, instrumentalists, and other creators currently working in the recording industry. Cracked writes, think about that for a minute. While there must be some comedians among the vetted and venerable performers, there are also jazz saxophonists, classical violinists, and gnarly bearded dudes who play the slide guitar. Then there are all the wonky producers and engineers, industry experts, sure, but possibly not folks who spend their spare time spinning comedy records. Voters who don't know much about the contenders will opt for the one with the most name recognition. I heard of that guy. I love Chappelle's show. Chappelle keeps winning, so he must be good. Crack finishes, are there other reasons to vote for Chappelle? Let me know if you can think of one. Meanwhile, don't blame me for his continued dominance at the Grammys. I would have voted for Wanda Sykes. Johnny Mac would have picked Trevor Noah. And I could even make the case for the I've heard of that guy, vote for Trevor Noah. So I don't get this at all. All right, back to Taylor Swift. Backstage, Taylor greeted Trevor Noah with a hug and praised him for such a successful night as host of the awards show. People tells us she embraced Trevor and told him he did a beautiful job tonight. You really did. I don't know how you do it. I've seen you running around all night. I don't know how you do it. Taylor, you run around all night. What are you talking about? Before I get hate mail, I like Taylor a lot. You want me to whip out my phone and show you my Taylor list playlist? There's even one in the phone called Taylor Swift Dad's Edition. I saw the concert, best concert I've ever seen. I told my Springsteen friends, and I've seen Springsteen 50 times. I told my Springsteen friends, you want to tell me 5 guys are going to stand at one end of the stadium and play guitar? Not impressed. That said, I'll just chime in on Taylor. By the way, if you're interested in Taylor Swift Today is a podcast which covers Taylor Swift. Who knew, right? Well, I was listening to The Town podcast, which is kind of a Hollywood Insider podcast, and they were talking about backstage. People were eye-rolling that Taylor promoted her album during her speech. And when she kind of blew off Celine Dion, later you saw a photo of Taylor and Celine. Now, I've been in the media or media adjacent for 30 years. I was like, somebody was cleaning something up. And apparently, according to backstage people, they were cleaning that up and made sure that picture got out in a hurry. Because, yeah, Taylor, you were a little rude there. Taylor's not having a good week. John, get back to the comedy. Okay, Paste Magazine gets it. Their headline, man too racist to join SNL cast set to host SNL. They get it. They wrote, just to be clear, Shane Gillis' stand-up act doesn't consist of him just standing on stage spouting racial slurs and insulting gay people for an hour. I wish more people covering Shane Gillis would point that out. He also often deflates some of those statements immediately after making them, and some of his fans see it as a performance similar to a Danny McBride character, basically saying, how could anyone actually believe what I'm saying? Gillis is careful not to alienate the audience that would take him at face value. It's hard to tell how ironic Gillis intends to be, but it also doesn't matter if he's completely insincere and trying to make fun of racist attitudes, as ironic racism is still fundamentally racist, accomplishing the same goal as sincere racism by perpetuating and legitimizing racist ideas. Middle-aged white dude sitting in the basement. Not sure I agree. I get what Shane's doing. I get what Ricky's doing. And at some point in comedy, something's making fun of something, otherwise we're just telling jokes about chickens crossing the road. Paste points out, SNL has made an effort to bring in current stand-up comedians as hosts, often a critical acclaim. Nate Bargatze's hosting debut last year remains the most popular episode of the current season. It was the best episode in years. And John Mulaney has become one of the show's most beloved repeat hosts. So it's not a major surprise I would reach out to a comedian with the burgeoning profile of Gillis. Of course, Bargatze avoids politics, and it's usually not a major part of Mulaney's sets. And neither of them resort to the kind of hoary, hackneyed, racist, and homophobic material Gillis used in those podcast episodes from 2018. We're going to be talking a lot about this one for another 10 days. The AV Club said Bowen Yang's feelings about Nikki Haley's SNL appearance are a bit more clear. Yang posted to his Instagram a note in Nikki Haley's dressing room, which read, "Welcome to Studio 8H from Lauren plus everyone at SNL." Yang captioned the photo, "Everyone," with a smiley face emoji. The AV Club says some believe that comment suggests that Bowen did not want to be included among the everyone. Welcome to Showbiz, Bowen. Got some comedy podcast nominees. Nope, I wasn't nominated. I think a lot of times you have to actually pay to submit to these awards, which is why I don't do it. I feel like the podcast nominate it. Why do I have to give you $200? The iHeart Podcast Awards. What are these actually called? The 2024 iHeart Podcast Awards, South by Southwest, March 11th. The nominees are Best Comedy Podcast. I'll remind you 2 things. 1, I host a comedy podcast 7 days a week, which you can't hate too much if you're this deep into this episode. And 2, I've been in podcasting since 2015 and listen to 8 million podcasts every day. 8 million, slight exaggeration. And I'm looking at the list and going, what? The nominees for Best Comedy Podcast are Baby, This is Keke Palmer. Huh? Are you guys all listening to Baby, This is Keke Palmer? Whether or not I listen to it or like it, I do look at the charts because I want to see how my own podcasts are doing. I don't think I've ever seen it on the charts. The description, Keke Palmer has questions for days about everything under the sun, from the existential to the inconsequential. I'm going to go to Chartable and see how this thing does. Again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just like, what? Who? Mike in Cleveland, you're probably like, come on, man, Keke Palmer. I know you're like the comedy expert, Mike. Mike's my friend for 25 years. I'm not being a jerk. Is it 25, Mike? No, it's more than 25. It's 35. All right, Keke Palmer's podcast right now as I look at this on the Apple Podcast United States of America comedy charts is number 43. Much better than this dumb podcast you're listening to. This one right now is number 24 in the stand-up subcategory, up 3 places today. Yeah, this one's usually around 20 or so, depending on the minute. Anyway, the nominees. Baby, this is Keke Palmer. Handsome. So that's Stig Notaro, Fortune Feimster, and Mae Martin. All right. Probably going to win. Smartless. Oh, yeah, that could win. This is Important. I've heard of that, but what is that? Adam Devine, Anders Holm, Blake Anderson, and Kyle Newacek. Forgot that existed. How's that doing? Well, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 podcasts with the same title. I don't care that much to figure out which one is which. I worked with those guys very briefly, one broadcast. It was actually my last day at Sirius. They did Super Bowl Radio Row. They were quite cool. And Why Won't You Date Me is the other one. That's Nicole Byer's podcast. All right, I interrupted a million times. Let me give you the list real quick. The nominees are Baby, This is Keke Palmer, Handsome, Smartless, This is Important, Why Won't You Date Me? Running long here again. That's actually good if you're me. Like when I have extra stuff. All right, from Gossip Corner, did you see Darius Rucker? You may know him as country music star Darius Rucker. You may also know him as lead singer in Hootie and the Blowfish. He's not Hootie, a common misconception. Darius was arrested last week in Tennessee. His ex-girlfriend, comedian Kate Quigley, which is why I bring this up, celebrated on Twitter. She posted, "All I can say is karma," adding an emoji heart to the text. Ouch. In a follow-up post, she shared a bikini selfie with her tongue out that she captioned, "Mood when you hear your D-bag ex got arrested, #karma." Mr. Rucker was charged on minor drug offenses for possession of a controlled substance. Quigley split with Rucker back in 2020. Mr. Rucker was released from police custody on $10,500 bond. Kevin Hart, never one shy to take on another gig. Exclusive from Awful Announcing. Heartbeat launches Kevin Hart's Cold as Balls Super Bowl live tapings. Kevin Hart's got his Cold as Balls Cold Tub interview series. It's kind of like Hot Wings, but different. They're going to tape 2 episodes of Cold as Balls on Thursday and Friday. Heartbeat will also present Shaquille O'Neal's Shaq's All-Star Comedy Jam a Friday and Saturday. Let's see who's on that. By the way, I told my wife about my Lauren Boebert search. She thought it was funny. All-Star Comedy Jam, hosted by Dion Cole. Good choice there. D.L. Hughley, Earthquake, Desi Banks, Aida Rodriguez. That is a solid show. February 9th and 10th, 8 o'clock at Resorts in Las Vegas. And I love suits who are just so unaware how bad their quotes say. Heartbeat President and Chief Distribution Officer Jeff Clennigan told Awful Announcing, "The synergies between sports and entertainment have long been something we've been interested in, dating back to the launch of Cold as Balls in 2018 and the viral Peacock series Olympic Highlights with Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg. At Heartbeat, we've created an ecosystem that can produce, market, and monetize IP and experiences all under one roof." Boy, that sounds fun, Mr. Clennigan. All right, one more for you. From KROC, a comedian has been announced for the Minnesota State Fair grandstand lineup. Who is it, Johnny Mac? Because I'm planning on going to the Minnesota State Fair. Well, if you find yourself in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, the State Fair is running August 22nd through Labor Day. All right, John, well, who's the comedian? Why won't you tell us? Well, the comedian's performing Saturday, August 24th at 7 p.m. I think that might be the night I have Kenny Chesney tickets at Giant Stadium. You can get in for $77, $97, $107, or $197. The party deck will run you $154. I wonder what the party deck gets you. Who's the comedian, John? Is it Kevin Hart? No. Is it Dave Chappelle? No. Who is it, John? It's Nate Bargatze. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend about it. They might like it too. See you tomorrow.